How is everyone?
Hey.
Morning,
Oh,
Benny.
I did sneak in. Good evening. Okay, first of all, here's a good question for you all. How have you survived the brutal market conditions if you are if you're new to crypto?
Buy more RFOX.
I was saying
That's more than you lose.
I'll be very transparent with you as well. I was saying that I would say it's absolutely freaking exhausting. You sort of have to, especially people that are brand new to the space, don't understand the fluctuations, right? So you sort of try and explain how things work and the zoom out and all the rest of it, but then you'll actually sort of go through that for a whole day, and then you'll find that your friends and relatives call as well and say, hey, what's going on? Why is Bitcoin doing that? Why is this doing that? But I guess the positive to take out of all of that is that you never used to get calls from those people asking why those things happen. You used to get told that you're mental for for going near something like Bitcoin, and now they're all, I'm invested now. So every cycle that we go through, we're getting closer and closer to that mass adoption. You still have some stables on the side, not convinced that this was the low for December for the entire market, not RFOX especially. Yeah, that's the thing, PJ, as well, is that you do get a lot of people that assume that it's just you and it's no one else, or it's just, yeah. And to be honest, I think that's the question that I've had the most this week. People have said, we were all set up for a massive December. What happened? Bitcoin's Bitcoin. That's how Bitcoin behaves. And that's the question I think I've been asked the most. I got asked it twice in interviews this week as well, is do you think we've reached the bottom, or do you think we're going to have more legs down? What do you think is going to happen? And no one knows the answer to that. Have a mate that is a month in. He paper-handed some of his portfolio, a rite of passage of sorts. Yeah, actually, I know a couple of people who it was their first foray in, and believe it or not, it's kind of a changed landscape. They actually sold at pretty much the bottom of everything, because of the fact that they were worried about the tax implications. And I was saying, I don't understand if it goes. Like, I understand capital gains if the product, if it goes up, but if you sell at a loss, I don't know. I don't live in a crypto tax country like that. But what happens? Do you claim the loss if it goes down and you sell? I don't know how it works. Will billboards be owned by RedFOX Labs, sold off to the public, or do they come with the shops? No. So they're separate, and the two models that we're looking at for billboards that haven't yet been locked in, and both can exist. So in the beginning, we had companies come to us and ask if they could actually basically rent all of the billboards that we have in the space. I think I've told this story before on one of these calls, but for those who haven't heard it, their company actually does digital billboard advertising in virtual spaces. It's very, very weird that you'd think that there's actually a company that does that. But what they do is they go around and they rent out all of the billboards that are available in the space, and then they mark the price up and sell them at a premium, right? Like rent them at a premium. So the two models that we're looking at are renting and also the potential to look at selling the billboards, but the selling part hasn't been decided, and they're still working out the commercial models for that. But as they're NFTs, they can be rented for particular periods of time, or and then subleased as well. So they would be owned by us for sure. How it works, with how we've structured it, is media would be responsible for managing that. So there's a few things we haven't announced yet coming up that are pretty big along those lines. But how that would work is that basically they'd get 80% of the revenue made from the billboards, and we'd get, RedFOX would get 20%. For any transaction that goes through the vault, obviously 2% goes back to the same flow. So all the billboard revenue 1% of that would go to VFOX holders. Okay, that's a great question, JD Crypto. Just wondering, when you mentioned in the AMA, can Unity and Unreal be integrated in the Vault for games? Yeah, so that's a question we've been asked, and I raised it today. And the answer was, you'll have to get that answer from the CTO. What we got asked a couple of times this week is, can a person with an existing game on the Unreal Engine come into the virtual space, have a shop, and, for example, I'll use the instance of a I don't know, a shooting gallery or a bowling alley, and they come in and they say, hi, I buy the NFTs and all the rest of it, and I want to now play the game. Is there a doorway that you can go through, or when you enter that shop as an instance, can it be a separate instance that actually runs on the game that exists on the Unreal Engine? And we don't have an answer to that yet. That's the question that we were asked. I've raised it today. But we've spoken to several projects during this week that already have established games, and they're wondering how they can actually bring their game into the metaverse if it's already built. They were saying, I understand if you develop SDKs and stuff, we can build games specifically for the metaverse, but what if we've already got games that are doing really well, have traction? Can we integrate those into the metaverse? So that's what we're looking into now. Tezos partnered with Ubisoft, and their NFTs are going to be used in Ghost Recon. That's pretty big. Yeah, they went on. We crossed paths with several of the people that they were talking to, and several of the deals that they did. We had the same deals on the table for a few, but some of those deals are very, very expensive, and I don't reckon you'd ever get your money back. It's more of a publicity thing than anything else for some of them. So you've got to assess those deals, but there's a lot of deals like that are for sale, and it's just a matter of how much money people are prepared to pay for those types of things. But we're trying to build partnerships of value at the moment where you can actually build something with someone or do something with someone that will be good and ongoing. I think obviously that one's going to be good, but some of the other ones that we've seen come up and are really just not worth the money. If you want to work with some of the very big brands, you're paying $3 to $5 million a year just to be able to say you partnered with them. And some of them, if you want to be blockchain partners with them, you're paying $20 million a year. I just don't see the value of that. Have you considered a market square space for those that can't afford a shop or don't need a full shop and could rent for it? Yeah, so Face, when we do the local deployments and rollouts, because as you know, our focus is on digital inclusion, that will have, we've talked about doing food courts and hawkers and smaller stores, especially when we go into Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam. We'd still have the bigger shops, but we'd also have food courts and stalls and all the rest of it. And just the way I envisage it in my head, once designers come in, they'll work out that sometimes what Benny's P-brain wants might not be possible. But the way I see it is like those Japanese, have you ever seen those Japanese walls that you go and buy your food from, like little boxes? So if you imagine a digital version of that, you click on it and up pops the menu, you order your food, and it gets delivered to your house in real life. But yes, Face, we have to make smaller stores and opportunities for people at a lower entry point. So we have talked about that before, but when we go to the local deployment levels, that's something that we'll definitely look at doing. The analogy I always use is I always say, we've got a lady next door that does sugarcane juice, and the quality of that juice is better than the stuff that Starbucks would put out with their juices and coffee. So we want to provide a platform where the quality can sort of be compared side by side, and we want to give people that entry into there. Do you have any rideshare interested in transporting users in the metaverse? Grab partnership would be awesome. So as you know, CCLY, I'm connected to Grab due to the fact that I was C-level there, but and know a lot of the people there. they weren't interested in the beginning of getting into Metaverse at all or blockchain at all, and now they sort of have come around to that. But we haven't really had any conversations in relation to ride hailing per se, but all of those companies are now getting into finance and insurance and all the rest of it. So it's a lot harder for them to get into DeFi and stuff because they're all heavily regulated, but they're interested in more sort of the reward side of things. And obviously products that can be offered to their user bases. So if the partnership ever was formed with a ride-hailing company, I'm almost certain that it would be for ride-hailing, but the most logical partnership you do with one of those companies is for like food delivery and logistics. So if you're doing a food court, partnering with them to do the delivery of the food. Yeah, so Ramses, the two things that are really important, obviously, is the traction, making sure the tool can, the capacity. So the team have been working on improving the features and stuff of that. And obviously it's in our best interest to make sure that that is very successful and it expands, because that's going to burn COGs, which is going to be extremely important when you've got lots of new people coming in, because the higher the value of COGs, the more COGs can be used for the reward component, which means less dependency on a token supply that's limited, and it just makes perfect sense. So we know the model works, we know the tools work. Now it's just a matter of scaling that and getting that to scale up in conjunction with the game. But it's going to be pretty cool. Actually, there's no shortage of interest of NFT projects that want to get involved, but some of them just don't make sense. They don't have enough traction, or the value's too low. So it's finding that balance. It's a tricky balance to find, but there's plenty of really good projects out there, and lots of them are interested as well, which is good. With the new website launching into this week, will the rest of the websites be shut down? So that's a question that came up today. I saw that someone said, RFOX.com is going to be cool because then you can have /vault and /whatever, and then you don't need to have all of those websites. But as you know, the businesses, each of the ventures are standalone in their ability to be able to operate and function as its own business. So the websites would remain. Whether they get redirected or not, I don't know how. I'm not the person to ask. Pete probably knows how to answer those questions better on whether you can. But the idea was to have RFOX.com as like the main landing page, and the page you go to learn about the whole ecosystem in its entirety. And then then you'd be able to choose, I like that one, or I want to go into that one. I want to learn more about that, and then it would take you into that site. So if you have a look at like a Virgin website, for example, Virgin is a venture builder of sorts, a brand builder, and they've got a really good consolidated one site where you can go in and look at and learn about all of the different product offerings and ventures and the verticals they have, and then you can literally go into any of the verticals themselves into their own standalone page. So it does both. Directly connected to RFOX, but lately there are problems for RFOX holders with bridging on XYZ. Also, RFOX.Finance is sometimes working strange due to BSC issues. Will we ever be in a position to avoid such problems? The bug, new people especially. Yeah, we talk about this a lot, George. 74. The thing is that when it comes to money, people are always going to freak out, and that's understandably so. Pete can probably explain the.
I can take this a bit. The multi-chain XYZ, I don't recall having any issues because I did bridge some recently. However, the BSC thing, there's a lot of node issues on BSC itself right now. I think just due to the crash and the volume of people trying to pull stuff out. RFOX.Finance is working in terms of all the functionality, the trade, the farm, the stake. What is not working is the showing up of the value of the RFOX, the value of the the total locked, the TVL, and just like the when you harvest, when you it shows you how much RFOX you got in your wallet. Usually it shows you the value. That value number, a lot of API endpoints are down right now. We're trying to find something that works. and the ones that work have seemed to shut down for external usage. So that's the only issue we're facing right now, as in you can't see the value. But the numbers, like your number of RFOX, the number of LP tokens, your number of VFOX, all that is still accurate. There's no issues with farming, staking, harvesting. I just harvested a bunch of RFOX earlier today, and I also staked that same bunch of RFOX after I harvested. Functionality works. It's just the display of the dollar value that currently is. We're running into issues on that. But
it's a good
yeah,
point you bring up. Sorry, Pete. I was just going to say that the one thing that we're working towards is making sure, this is why we want to always try longer term to make sure that we've got our own products and our own. That's why we said it would have been really quick for us to take white label versions of whatever was available, click them all together, and some of our products would come to market much quicker. But the problem is that when you're relying on other people's infrastructure, you're also at the mercy of their performance as well, right? And when nodes don't work for whatever reason, different APIs or different nodes provide different data as well, and that's hard for a business to sort of track, monitor things if the data changes. So I think we've said this before, Pete, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we always want to try and move towards having, the longer term plan is to have our own infrastructure, or at least have some control.
100%.
Yeah,
Correct. That is correct. We're getting there, but not 100% yet. There's still stuff that we rely on third parties, whether paid or whatever is available.
TKO, what was the idea behind the Harambe official partnership? So TKO, what you'll see, same with when we first helped Reebok with the Whas launch as a tester and then the ETH launch, a lot of things happen over the course of time, and what we're trying to do is help and work with people that want to actually try and build in the vault and bring value to the vault. So the partnership was more just to sort of acknowledge that we've got these types of builders putting their hands up and saying, we see value in the vault, we want to come in here, we want to build. Obviously some of them will be smaller or lesser known, others will be bigger, but I've made no secrets about it, and we've made no secrets about it. The plan definitely is, now that we have the infrastructure in place, to actually launch brands ourselves through the vault and help to launch companies through the vault. But ultimately, anyone who wants to come in there and build, like for example, Josh, you're here. Josh has bought the first shop, and he'll come out inevitably at some stage and say, this is the name of my company, this is the name of the business I'm trying to build to add value to the vault. So we would try and help promote that as well. So it's basically recognition of the projects that are trying to build and add value in our ecosystem. In Manor and Sandbox, anyone can buy some land, build their own community, etc. Will we ever be able to buy something in RFOX where we can build our own worlds? At the moment, only the big boys can afford to buy land in RFOX. So hello again. Yeah, the first world is supposed to be the showcase, the model, and then when we go to the local instances, that's where we've got the ability we'd still keep the same basic structure, and we want the look and feel to be more localized with color schemes and language. We've talked about that, and we've also, lots of people have said it would be great to have a passport system so that you can go around to all the different vaults, but ultimately the entry point will be lower, and in a number of different ways for sure. It's the original Genesis vault is obviously very specific and it's global. So yes, when we go to the local level, much more. What is the progress of RFOX TV? So that the roadmaps are coming out with the new comms and site, and RFOX TV. Basically, when you saw back to the Miss RFOX competition and Miss U, that was all running on our video platform back then. So the type of things that have been happening behind the scenes have been integration of RFOX ID, and the commercial models for how to roll that out, deploy that. And as I said, we've got a few things behind the scenes as far as partnerships and stuff that are quite big that will sort of become more obvious as to what's coming together and how very shortly. But at the moment, it's all UI type of interface stuff that's happening. The actual video side of things itself works. We've already used it and deployed it. It's more about the commercial product. So yeah, so in 2022, the goals are to combine the TV. We've talked about this before with a marketplace. So you'd be able to share content, create content, upload content, and then people would be allowed to come along and buy that content as well. It would get minted as an NFT, and that would be the IP transfer. So the horrible analogy I give is if I filmed 9/11 or something on my mobile and Fox News came along and said, I want to be able to use that on my news service, they'd purchase it from our marketplace. It would be minted. The NFT would be the proof of IP or ownership and be transferred. So this will change content distribution hugely, and we've already got validation with on the model as well. So we're very excited to talk to you about how that will play and roll out. How's the burn account going? Floor price on KOGs seems to be better than before. What is the what are we up to, Pete? Do you know off the top of your head? Maybe you can have a look.
Numbers haven't changed since the last purchase and the last burn. I mean, I burned a bunch during one of these calls, I guess.
No,
But,
I think they're asking how many we've had
we're
in
at
there.
28,500 KOGs.
Not bad. Let's see if we can get that up to hundreds of thousands. Hi, Benny. Something I find really hard to justify, and that is when you consider the amount of regular users on Decentraland works out at 5.2 million per user compared to market cap. Oh yeah, having a lot of users in a small space has a huge advantage. Obviously, the more users, the better the experience, and the reason why investors will flock to RFOX over time. 100%, Marco. That is a common criticism, but the problem is, this is why we went down the route of doing this, right? We haven't actually copped any criticism for it, but the reason we went with a planned environment where the templates for the shops were already built and the infrastructure was already there was due to the fact that we didn't want to have some of those problems. And I'm not picking on Decentraland in any way, shape or form, but the model's kind of set up and promotes people to sort of, you imagine if you went into a shopping mall and you went into a Nike store, and then next door to it, there was a dude sitting on a plastic chair and there was nothing in there. And you thought, what's this? And he goes, I'm just waiting for the store to go up in value. I'm not going to build shit. I can make money just by sitting here. We didn't want that situation. We wanted it so that the shops were open, was lively, it had users. And the only way you can really do that is if those users are actually coming in and you're not just giving away shops to all the users like many of them have had to do, then those people are also going to have a vested interest in making sure that they market that to their client base, right? So they're going to have foot traffic coming in. And the foot traffic that all of the people bring in from the different shops will bring in foot traffic to other shops because they'll have a goosey gander and a bit of a look-see while they're there, right? So 100%, I think your assumption is correct. And that's why it made sense for us to build quarters and to segment it to give it a more livelier and more bustly feeling as well. If you build one big open space, it is not likely to have the same type of impact. And it's also difficult from an instance perspective because we've definitely gone down the route of gaming, and you're going to hear a lot more about that over the next few days and week on some of the things that we'll be introducing that have been added or are enhancements to what you already know, which are pretty exciting. That all leads to instances having to load. So for example, if you go up to the top of a tower and you want to do a lookout, the way that, and this is something that I've learned because I'm not a video game maker, is that you have to have instances run. If you tried to load the whole thing at one time, it's massive, it's too big. So that's why you go into a SkyTrain. It allows time for that particular quarter to load. And I think the way it's structured is conducive to doing exactly what you've written there, yes. Phishing incoming. Have any esports teams or esports tournament holders reached out regarding events in the Hyperion already? And same question for Callinova. Any confirmed exhibitions in Origin? Have you mentioned possibility of having the chasing space in there for an event, or am I mistaken? So CryptoNab, I can't tell you exactly what it is, but yes, we're looking at, we're talking to some people that would look at, the dilemma always is, do you want to say yes to people that want residency there? So for example, how do I hint without, so say somebody has a lot of events and they're big, they might want to use the open building for all of their roster of things coming through. So we've got to be mindful of how to juggle that as well, so that we can have multiple parties using stuff. So to be honest, that's something that we're still trying to work out. We've also had the suggestion of, can you build a little bridge off of one of the quarters to have a separate area? Because, you know, I'll use an Australian example. You might have Optus Stadium or something for football. You could have multiple of those stadiums, because I think that we've been sort of surprised by the fact that, and again, I don't think people really understand it, and you will in time, when a brand like Reebok says, we'll go with you, we'll risk our reputation on a product that's not commercially available yet, and we're able to release smoothly, the type of people that we're now talking to about working with aren't just like scraping 2 cents together and trying to work out where to get clients from. They're big, and they've got enough traction and enough business to warrant, you know, technically they could probably warrant having their own metaverse, but we've got a big head start and we've got a big advantage. So the bigger the partners that we partner with, the more they want as far as coverage or space or usage.
Yeah, everyone wants a little annex of the quarter, you know. Can you
Yes.
add another, you know, floating station at the side of the quarter
Yes.
and all that? So the whole thing is going to be like just a bunch of floating stuff eventually. But yeah, it's, I mean, that's what they're asking at the very least, right?
Yeah, but even we're getting a bit starstruck now, because we're talking to people that we would have been pulling on their pant legs a year ago, saying, please talk to us. We'll be building something that's cool. Now we're actually getting them approach us, and that's a really awesome feeling and expectation. But the thing is that some of them are going to want stuff that we don't have yet, or that we didn't plan on building, and that's why. What you'll see, we'll talk to you about that very shortly. That's why we're going to be introducing more stuff, and we're bolstering our teams. We're bringing on a lot more people internally, and we're working with more outside companies as well to try and really work this out, because some of the partners that are coming to us already have technology, and it's pretty developed technology, and it's used. It's very famous. You'll know it straight away. And the thing is that to integrate that in, it's not like we weren't planning for success or we weren't thinking that we could be successful, but let's be very realistic and honest. When we're first starting to draft this and build this, and coming from where we've come from and where we are now, we were like, it would have been a 3-year plan to sort of try and land one of these types of clients that are coming to us now. But to have 4, 5, 6, 7 of them coming at the same time and all saying, you know, we've got technology, we're already set up, we're already catering for millions of users and all the rest of it, so integrate us, that's technically, it becomes a much bigger proposition than what might be a fairly modest sort of initial thought process and target, if that makes sense. I think you know what I'm saying. Would RFOX ever consider tokenizing one of their vault shops, providing RFOX COGs holders opportunities to own? Yeah, so CCRY, what we've talked about is having fractional ownership in like stadiums, and saying that we'd look at doing 100%. We'd look at doing fractional ownership in stadiums, so people can own a piece of a stadium or a piece of a train station if it generates revenue, so that everybody can have a little piece. Especially because you think about it, that the model that we've got, there's 100 shops for sale. As this gains momentum, there's not going to be more than 100 shops. So people are going to say, I missed the boat, I can't afford it, I can't get in. but I want to be part of it. So it's extremely important that we're offering other options for people to be able to invest or to get in or be part of that. So, but ultimately, you know, the more successful the vault is, the more value those shops have. So I personally think that the scarcity and the way that it's being built, those shops, we'll look back on this in 2 or 3 years and say, can you believe that you could get a shop for X in those and that's a question I'll pose to you. Start writing it now, because I'll catch up. I think I'm 12 minutes behind. With the market conditions as they are, and with using ETH and with the meta craze, what do we think the average price will be in ETH for each shop? I'm not answering that, Paradise. Oh yeah. How are we going with the updated roadmap? So TK, the roadmaps were largely finished a long time ago, 5 or 6 weeks ago. It might even be longer. KOGs, you could probably correct me, or Pete. We all had to submit our roadmaps a while back, a long while back. But we've been waiting for we didn't want to release parts of the comms before the actual website and rebrand. And now we're able to secure RFOX.com. I saw one of you funny buggers wrote in there, some squatter was probably sitting on it and flipped at RFOX.com. That's the case for sure. We used a broker, and yes, they charge extortionary fees for locking down a .com. But it's extremely important that we get a .com, and it was worth waiting and tussling for it, because as you know, there seems to be problems with .ios. A lot of these platforms don't like you to use or advertise if you're a .io, so it's worth the money to get a .com. But I think you're right. It's like like I was talking about with Decentraland. Some people were just sitting there on a plastic chair waiting for someone to start up a business called RFOX and then come along and I don't even take you out for drinks before they do you. Has Reebok been given a marquee store? Not at this stage, but we've sort of talked about this last week. Like, for example, Icon's not got a marquee store, but they're obviously going to be a big client. And we're at the point where the momentum's building up. And again, I have to say, credit to Zuckerberg for introducing the world to the term. We're trying to work out how we deal with the fact that there's more big businesses that want to join the vault and not enough marquee shops. We can't just give away more than there are. So I'm very interested to see how many of them actually bid tomorrow versus buying on secondary markets. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at what the prices go for and looking at secondary as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. But you'll see a lot more get introduced in the same way that Icon did, that have come in and are buying. Yep. When are you thinking will be a good time to spend the shop sale ETH on RFOX? So we'll communicate that in advance. I think you know how it is. You know, people will say, oh, that it'll pump, and I want to know when. And the team will do a coordinated thing, and rah rah rah. We'll be transparent like we always are. We'll tell you when we're going to buy. The fact is, we're not pump and dumpers. We're not trying to cause a pump or a whatever. We'll tell you when we're going to buy, just like we were doing with the KOGs. The fact is, it's very important that people understand this as well. They were saying, well, you're only buying back 45%, so how does that help us? The thing is, if we were collecting in RFOX, we'd have to sell 55% for development and marketing and all the rest of it. So we'll be buying that from the secondary market. So I think that's extremely good. But as far as when to buy it, we haven't arranged an exact time, but we'll communicate that to you. If you have a top tier exchange lined up, launch day may be a good time to buy the RFOX. So again, Face, in relation to the top tier exchanges, we talk to them all the time. They decide when you get listed. outside of FTX, which I've told you, you need to get $100 million worth of trading volume on one day to be eligible. For the rest, we're eligible, and now it's a matter of when they list you. For me being a whole staking, I would want them to buy ASAP so they get as much RFOX as possible, as cheap as possible. Yeah, that makes sense to us as well, Urban Gecko, because the thing is that we want to provide value back to the holders, of course. So I think it's interesting because the market sort of pulled back a little bit, and it's probably a blessing in a way because we went from, what was it, 3.5 or 4 cents to 35 cents in a very, very short period of time. And as a result of that, a lot of people are buying at a very quick wick up. So I think that this little bit of ranging that we're doing, and if you have a look at charts, the price is between sort of 16 and 24 cents. The longer that it ranges between that 16 and 24, just the same as Bitcoin or anything else, then obviously more people are buying, the more consolidation happens, and the price drops happened on small volume as well. If you compare the volume when it went up to the volume when it goes down, and as we all know, that's a bullish sign. But the longer it stays in that range, the more sustainable the next leg up becomes. So I know that if you're a small investor or you've got an investment in there that's quite heavy, it can be very emotional. But ultimately, if you're a longer term and you've been around for a while, you know that consolidation is extremely important and you want more people coming in. And even when we were dropping in price like everybody else was, our wallet numbers were going up at the same rate as they were the increase, which is an extremely positive sign as well. One of the questions that we've had a lot is, when will we see the marketing for the Vault sale? When will we see the marketing? If you have a look at the numbers, you have a look at wallet growth, you have a look at the articles that are popping up, both mainstream and in crypto, the new guys in the marketing team are much more switched on. They've got a much more consolidated and solid plan. And I think by the time the next sale rolls around, they're just going to get better and better. They had to build a lot of these processes from scratch, and these guys are much smarter and better at targeting. So, yes, I'm interested to see how the market plays. The new article regarding Reebok and RFOX mentions Kanye. Can we read between the lines on that? You can read between whatever you like. Let's just say it's a very small world, and you don't generally, all I'll say is you don't generally go from working with very big brands like that to going back to working with very small brands. We'll be providing the tools that allow the small brands to become bigger, but I think it's fair to say that the people that we're talking to are getting bigger and bigger, and it's becoming easier to get those conversations, and those conversations are being initiated by the bigger people. So there's a lot of good plays on the table. So it's my understanding RFOX will be used as a charge coin into the metaverse as well as in games. My question is, how are RFOX going to control the price fluctuation? So
I can do the question if you want.
Yeah.
The idea is when you use a coin into a game, normally you are selling into the market, so the amount of the coins into the wallets starts growing and the price starts downtrending. Normally it happens in any game into NFT games.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
it's my idea. The only two work tools RFOX have is burning the token in order to maintain the price, or buy back the token from that type of wallet.
Yep, you're right, and it's a great question, and you're right. And have a look at SLP, for example. I think they're at a 20% burn rate to production at the moment. The thing is that's exactly why we're talking about the MintLab and stuff before. So that the MintLab and ideas like that aren't just sort of like, hey, this is something cool that we could do. This type of a mechanism provides value once traction is reached and inflection points are reached, so that people are minting KOGs, getting the ability to earn revenue from those COGs, seeing those NFTs introduced into a game, the funds being used to burn COGs off the floor, which rises the floor price, and actually you'll have more people investing in the COGs as opposed to just using them or purchasing them to play in the game. And then therefore the COGs actually become a tradable liquid asset, right? So they can be used in place of and phased in conjunction with RFOX. So the whole idea of something like the MintLab is to take the dependency off of just giving out RFOX, because RFOX is also something we have to be extremely clever with, because our RFOX token isn't just a game token that's, like you say, used across the whole metaverse. So you don't want a knock-on effect and the value to decrease. So that's why we think long and hard about stuff like MintLab and ingenuitive ways to introduce value to COGs, which we can control the supply of and have got the ability to mint based on demand and need. Whereas with RFOX, it is a cap supply, and you're right. If you were just giving away RFOX all the time for game players, you'd have people selling all the time, unless you've got a really good way in, then the demand would only be one side. So your question is very fair, and that's why we're working on things like the MintLab to take away that dependency. So we're very confident we can cover that and actually increase the value of RFOX.
That just to finally my question, the same is going to happen into the metaverse. The final idea, for my understanding, is we're gonna have more than one metaverse. The idea is to create the first one to introduce the public and the institutions and stuff, and in this case, grabbing these investors into the project. And in the future, we're gonna have more than once, but the coin is gonna be the same. So the price fluctuation is gonna be hard to handle in the future as well. The idea maintains in the same for the games and the metaverse.
So the metaverse, you're continually buying RFOX, because whatever currency is used for the transactions, there'd be a transaction fee. So that currency would be converted into RFOX, which means you're continually buying RFOX for all the transactions. And then it's up to us and the people that the recipients of the RFOX. So the RFOX is then acquired quickly at the point of transaction, and then it's paid out slowly through the pools, through the VFOX pools. So it is trickled out at a much slower rate, but also we've got other incentives and other reward structures that would entice people to hold the RFOX that's being bought. So that's why it was extremely important for us to have continual buy pressure for RFOX. So yeah, it's something we think about a lot, mate. And I think that we've got a lot of good teachers in what not to do, because we've seen projects completely ruin their tokenomics and token value by just giving out tons and tons of tokens and not thinking about the consequences. So we have none of what we are building and that clicks together would be of any value if we're continually just if one section of the business is just pumping out tokens at willy-nilly with no regards to their value. So what you're saying is a very valid point, and I think that if you have a look at the models that we've put out and the things that we're talking about, we think about this non-stop. This is extremely important to us. I think we'll do very well. There'll be modifications as time goes on, of course, but that's why people have also said, why are you doing stuff like burning some of the token raise for the land sales and stuff like that. So we're always looking at how we can introduce deflation, how we can increase value. It's a great question, mate. And I think most blockchain projects that are doing something similar have no answers and just say, we'll just mint more. We've got capped supply as well, so we can't do that.
Thank you.
No problems, mate. All the news partnerships announced and emerging, have you and the team reviewed?
That's a loaded question.
But I can answer that. So, Craigo, we've still got 20 and 65, so 20 million for this year and 65 million for next year as projected. Obviously, it depends on before you release your products commercially and you've got lots of revenue producing, you also have a token dependency, which means that you're subject to fluctuations as well. But that is the plan. I think that, this year, depends on how the market ends, we might end up, it depends on the land sales as well, we might end up close to that 20 million. Could be a little bit either side depending on what the fluctuations are. But like you say, I think 65 million for next year, if we've got the products up, running and functioning. Certain VCs that have looked at us have said that that's quite conservative. I think that we're not going to adjust them at this stage, but we'll know by the end of the first quarter if that's going to be blown out of the water or not. And it depends a lot on the market as well. 15 ETH, 25, 25, 2 slow potato, 30, 33, 20, 50. I've got no idea. I've got asked so many times this week. I've got absolutely no idea. I think the funny thing is that when you're on this side of the fence, you probably have less idea than you guys do.
Yes, exactly.
Because people keep saying to me, what do you see as a success? And the thing is, we give a lot of what we're raising back, right? A lot. So to me, a successful sale is all about getting the word out of who we are, what we're doing, what we're building, and the quality of the projects that are coming in to build. That's what's really important to me, because the funding that we raise from this isn't going to be the difference between us being able to develop something amazing or not, because we've already got the development side of things taken care of. So this is much more about the exposure side of things for us. So, yep. Does RedFOX Labs have any plans to approach any major record labels such as Universal Music? So, Crypto Matrix, without divulging too much, we're already speaking to these people.
That's saying a lot, Benny.
Okay, who cares? I've told you before, and I'll say it again, when you're dealing with those types of big brands, and I don't think people understand how significant it was for us to be able to get Reebok out smoothly on an unreleased product when all the other projects are struggling they're pushing back the launch time of now pushbacks are normal and delaying products is normal. But what I'm saying is they're unable to get it out because they go, I didn't realize how much uploading had to be done. I didn't realize the size of the contracts. If Reebok go out and post a link to 4 million people and you're not ready, they're screwed, you're screwed, everybody's screwed. So I don't think people understand how big a message that was to the market, that we can handle that stuff and do that stuff. And as a result of that, we have won the confidence of a lot of big people, and it's a matter of, do we have the infrastructure to onboard them? How do we onboard them? And to be very, very clear and honest with you, we're working very hard to make sure we've got enough people and process in place to be able to get back to all the people that are coming to us. So we've got a lot of open conversations and a lot of contracts in progress that we struggle with the manpower to be able to close them all in a timely fashion. So what we're trying to do now is build the onboarding process and make it a bit smoother and easier. And Void Cyber are doing an awesome job of bringing clients to us as well, and also helping with the process for onboarding as well. They've been a godsend.
Yeah, so Benny, I mean, you mentioned, and the community have mentioned to me in DMs and various medium that the Reebok drop went pretty smooth, right? But myself and my team were looking at that, and then we identified 8 items that we could improve on. So whatever the next project is coming in, it's going to be better, right? And we're just going to keep improving.
Of course, and people keep asking me, which is very frustrating. If you guys launched off Reebok and it went so well, how come the price didn't go to $1 and all the rest of it? I don't have the answers to those questions, but the fact is that people seem to enjoy a shit show more than they do something that goes well. If there's a fire, everybody wants to see it. Everybody piles in. If something goes smoothly, they go, nothing to see here, please move away. But the fact is, internally, we know that that's a massive win. And that's why I actually have to tell you what it means. But that's what it does. It telegraphs to the market and big brands that if they trust you, you'll deliver for them. So that's something that's really, really important. Why does RFOX Games, RedFOX Labs, and Benny follow Electra Protocol on Twitter? We've known those guys for a long time, and Electra quite often talk to me and ask my opinion on stuff. We've been around in the space for a long time, so we know a lot of projects, and a lot of those projects talk to us. And yes, that's it. Nothing more. Any fears given the issues Board Ape has had with the App Store? Something around Apple not supporting any game that lets you. Yeah. Bloody oath, Ramses. We've noticed that ourselves. It's becoming a massive problem. And pretty much anything, you're right, pretty much anything with NFTs violates their terms and conditions. It's clearly signposted. It tells you what you can and can't do. So I think that most of these games and products are going to have to sort of work out other avenues. And if you're relying just on the Play Store to bring in an audience or whatever, I think a lot of projects soon could be in trouble for that. Like, it's going to be hard for them to bring in audiences, and that's why having a metaverse and a complete ecosystem is extremely important for bringing in traffic. But yes, 100%. We saw that 4 or 5 months ago in the rules. It sticks out like the proverbials. An RFOX Launchpad would have huge token lockup potential, absolutely. And I mentioned the word not in the traditional sense that you're thinking about with a traditional Launchpad, but yes, some similarities for sure. And certain there's a number of projects. I was on a call with a company last night that wants to do. So we are getting more and more people now starting to say stuff like, if you help us with a bit of advice on the project or whatever, we've got a token release coming up for one of our games. We'd be happy to work out a deal where we allocate a percentage of tokens that you could use in a staking pool or a farming pool or whatever. But the problem is, as you know, you've got to be just super careful because you don't know what these projects will do. If we go through a massive bull run, people disappear, and you just got to be very careful. So I think the caveat just has to be that if we ever get like they're not airdrops, they're obviously rewards for people in staking and farming pools. The caveat just has to be really, really, really bloody clear, and that is that we're not that project. And, if you stake and you earn that token, it's not up to us whether it goes up, down, they disappear, they're vwhatever. I know that sounds a bit weird, but the fact is we can't endorse anything. We can only vouch for what we do ourselves. That's it. Yes, would be great to have an AMA with Maria. I talked to her about that today. I talked to a couple of the guys today. Some of the people on the team are happy to. I think that with Maria, you're going to have to give her a few more weeks to get her head around stuff. She's madly trying to build that team and also trying to work out what the strategy, exact strategy for 2022 is with revenues and budgets and all the rest of it. So give her a few weeks to get her head around things and be comfortable. But just one thing I will say, guys, is that when people come into the space and they're new and stuff, ask them questions about what they're doing and where they come from and what their plans are and stuff like that. But you've got to understand also that they're volunteering to come out and talk, that some of these people don't have huge exposure to blockchain yet, so they're learning. So, if they're put on the spot, that's not really conducive to them wanting to do more and more and more. I think it's important to sort of ease them in and ask them questions about what the strategy for marketing is and how we're going to build stuff and the products and all the rest of it, if that makes sense. So it's my job also as a leader to protect people. But we've got people like Lay. He's happy to talk to the public. CFO. He's been the CFO of NEM and Hoiby and some big blockchain. So he's been around for a long time. But I do hear you. A lot of people are asking just to meet more of the team. So yes, and you all know Pete. Does this second land sale need to be a success? Surely we can't have a load of community members buying these shops. We need real clients buying these shops. I don't understand what you're saying, mate, because some of the community members that we have very good businesses, strong businesses and good ideas and stuff as well. If you're talking about people buying to flip them, for sure and certain. But yeah, another weird statement. But anyways, I've never understood how a community member is not a real customer. Exactly, Urban Gecko. Rather have the right people get the shop than a rich dude speculating on metaverses. I don't care about the 15% cashback to VFOX holders. Yep, very important, CryptoNab, that we do that. Like I say, the biggest problem we've got at the moment, I know it's you guys, if you need to go. I'll spend another 10 minutes just to try and get through these questions for you. CryptoNab, the conversations that we're having every day now are with businesses who want to shop and they want to build now. And I'm being very transparent with you. They don't necessarily want to sit there and do an auction. They want to buy the shop. So the suggestion that we get all the time is, why can't you just like sell 5 shops at a set price? We could potentially do that, but the only way you'd be able to do that is to say we auction 20 shops and whatever the average price is, we sell 5, the average medium price, or top 20% of the price, or at the highest shop price sold. I don't know. But my only concern or fear is, what if some of the people that want to buy and have expressed that they are going to buy don't participate in the bidding process? So that's something that we get asked all the time and we have to think about. So they're saying, give me a shop, I want to buy one right now. How much? And we say, sorry, can't sell it to you. Will there be a game in the vault? Yeah. So Chauncey, this is something we're going to talk about over the next few days and a week and stuff. We're going to start giving you more details on what it is. And like I told you, this opportunity is a once in a lifetime opportunity for us, and we want to make sure that we get that right. And with the type of customers that are coming in, we have to make sure that we level up a little bit some of our standard offerings and some of the things that we're building. So that's why we're putting on tons more people. I think we're looking at, what is it, Pete? 15 more internal people, plus...
I got 2 this week and 3 coming next week. So that's just my team.
And I think Danny's looking at 15 people. So that's 18 people.
Right.
Plus we've got two additional external teams now. So that wouldn't have been really necessary before had we continued to cross along the same path. But the fact is, we're doing a lot more now. So the teams are growing, and that is because the gamification part is extremely important. And we've been building from a design perspective in VR and all the rest of it with loose game side of things. And now we're going hard on making sure that the whole vault is gamified at a very deep level. So that's extremely exciting. It's a lot more building, but the end point will still be reached at the same time. So it's more a matter of chock full of features and add-ons and all the rest of it. Did Benny just announce he has a baby on the way? Yes, I do. Community members, you know what? That's one of the things that we've had to turn a lot of focus on, trying to build the products and all the rest of it. And as you know, our background, and for those who have been around in the project a lot, one of the things that we've been told a lot is that, you know, you get in here with us and talk to us a lot and all the rest of it. And that, admittedly, I don't have the bandwidth to do that as much as I have in the past. And the thing is that the quicker we get these products built and teams leading each one of these products while they're in the market and all the rest of it, 100% our focus is on the community. It's the most important part of any project. So we started well with what we were doing with KOGs and giving back to the community and making sure that people people are that our early investors are looked after and all the rest of it. And then when we start building other projects, we have to do the same thing. So we are very, very much focused on, we will not lose sight of that. And I think that we all just want to get these products built. We want them to be good. We want to set the gold standard in the space, and then we want to just do what we do and focus on the experience and bring you guys along with us. So I thank you for the patience that you've shown us, but I cannot understate the value of the community. It's extremely, extremely important. So, you know, you guys have been awesome. You've dealt with, I know it's not just to us, I know it's all projects, but you've dealt with pivots, delays, obstacles, hurdles, FUD, bear markets, the whole lot. And the thing is that the great part about this community, and I've been involved in lots of communities, is that a lot of you have been here from the beginning, and a lot of you that have come in have stayed in from wherever you've joined. And that's something that I think is amazing. Like, you give up your time every week to come and listen to these calls. That's, you know, you guys say thank you very much for doing this call, but it's actually us that should be thanking you for giving your time to actually care about the project and understand what we're doing. And we really appreciate that. Oh, yeah, and there would be other medium level admin tasks too. Takes all the team to make the team. I need pictures because I'm king of commons. Actually, Craigo, on the new site, I probably shouldn't talk about that yet because it's, but on the new site we've got some pictures of the team, of some of the team members and all the rest of it as well. Yeah, it's good. It's quite daunting, really, isn't it, Pete? When we start our weekly all hands meeting now, it's like, should we start? And then you've got, like, I think we had 60 odd people on there this week, so it's like
yeah, we don't start at 45 people now. 45 people were like, okay, wait, I think there's still some more coming in, right? And I remember the first one I attended, there were like 7 people. So
yeah, geez, there's still quite a lot of people here. So Paradise, you are 100% correct. We talk about this a lot internally. We talk about it a lot to the clients as well. And we talked about it to a couple of projects this week as well. We kind of, I think, have had to take a longer road than most people because of the fact that we have stuck to our guns. We haven't done these deals where we've sold our souls to VCs. We haven't done sort of like these pre-sales or underhanded sales or anything. And we could have. It would have been easy, and we could have swapped some of the stuff that we've got for a leg up or a get to go quicker. But the fact is that we know that we're doing the right thing by sticking to our guns and doing it the right way. And yes, it costs us for sure and certain. And it would be easy for us to just take a few shortcuts. But why at this point? Especially we've worked really hard to get to where we're at, and it is frustrating because sometimes you feel like you're sitting in a Ferrari and you're seeing Volkswagens pass you, but you know that in the long run it'll work out the right way. Yeah, and Brock, I appreciate that. And the thing is that I'll be honest, the hardest part of, I can only speak for myself, but one of the hardest parts of my role is to say, right, we've got to explain why this is happening or how this is happening and all the rest of it. And again, it would be easy just to sort of take an easy cop-out route or whatever. But the fact is that, we're acutely aware of people saying, what happened to that release, or what happened to this, or, you cop a lot of garbage for, or a lot of crap for things. But we also have a bigger team now, getting more productive, putting the process in place. We're still probably only 60% productivity because of the fact that a lot of these people are still getting their heads around the role and blockchain space. We could have done stuff like, we could have put the website out and the comms out earlier. But the fact is that we're also mindful that the community's on us for anything small. And if there's a spelling error or a grammatical error. It's just not good enough, and we're acutely aware of that. So we're pulling back on things until they're right as well. So it's a catch-22, because if you do that, people say, "What the hell?" But on the same token, if you put it out and it's not quite right, and we're at that point now where we've got big eyes on us and everyone's looking at us, and I'm not saying that it was ever acceptable, but it's less acceptable now than it ever is. So you put out something that's bad, it stays bad forever. So we've had to level up pretty fast, and we've now got no more wiggle room. We put something out bad now, and those blue chips that are dealing with us and doing deals with us start saying, "Jesus, this is amateur hour, Mickey Mouse hour." So we have to deal with, and we're going to have to always deal with some things that we're not easy to deal. And like you guys probably think, you like, we have sleepless nights. We think we've got to address this, or we've got to deal with this, or we've got to do that. There's lots of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see. Lots of stuff that goes on that you get to see. And the thing is that it's not easy. You toss and turn, and you lose sleep over what's the best way to do this, because you've got to provide value to your investors, and you've also got to make sure that you're progressing in maturity to your partners. And no matter what you do, you can't please everybody. So it's just you just got to be as transparent as you can. Okay, so thank you very, very much for coming to this call. I hope that you will all watch the Vault sale tomorrow. Please do the best you possibly can to also help to circulate that when it starts. We just like you, we have our fingers and toes crossed, but we're also looking at it from the functionality perspective, how it all works, how smooth the experience is, trying to answer all those questions and all the rest of it as well. But ultimately, we understand that whatever happens tomorrow is, one of the first little baby steps in a big journey. And if you are bidding, good luck to you. And let's just pray that the markets hold and don't spook people overnight, because that's have a tendency to do that. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us. And again, good luck if you're bidding, and we'll speak to you very shortly.
Thank you, Benny.
Thank you.
Guys, have a good night.